we get to actually talk about a fun winning game. This is like such rare territory for me and Max this year on Catfish on Ice. The Predators,
a little dancing,
not only win. What are we doing here?
We got to dance. We haven't danced at all this year.
Not only do they win, but they win a game that actually felt like it meant something. It wasn't just some like garbage win that no one cared about. Like it felt like it meant something. It didn't really mean anything in the standings for the Predators. That is, it was. You got the New York Islanders. They're hanging on by a single thread to maybe make the playoffs. So it did mean something to that team. I've been talking for like the past week that the way the schedule is rounding out for the Predators is they can just play spoiler a little bit. They can rain on some people's parades a little bit here. But look, their lottery odds are locked in. They can't screw up their draft pick. And so that whole debate can go to rest. It just really, you can call me like, you can call this really like kind of corny, but it felt really damn good to just see this team just like dig deep and win a game that no one thought they were going to win. Because this game was just, if you want to talk about roller coasters of games, Max, just a roller coaster. I mean, no one thought they were going to be. This team has struggled to score all year. It wasn't the strongest performance from Justus Onanen, but he did kind of rally there towards the end and make some good saves. But, I mean, to see this team just figure out a way to score 7 goals, I mean, it is pretty insane in itself. But it just feels good just to see this team do something.
It felt especially good going to a game that was that exciting from my part.
And what was your sense, Max, from the fan base? Before I get your answer from that, this is episode 265, Catfish and Ice. Thank you so much if you're watching live right now on our YouTube channel or on Facebook. We really appreciate you doing that. Throw us a comment in the live stream if you'd like and say what's up, and we'll feature your comments tonight on the show. And hit follow or subscribe while you're at it. And we are presented by DraftKings with our promo code THPN for first-time users. And so, yeah, Max, what was your overall sense of the crowd? Were they despondent? Did they not seem to really be into it? Were they just there just to be there? Or did you kind of feel some energy?
Well, granted, I mean, the crowd was, as it has been for most games second half of this year, was on it. Honestly, was a few empty seats, as you would expect for this time of year, and wasn't very loud. And honestly, with how the game unfolded, a lot of the fans had left by the time that comeback happened. I mean, it was a last-minute comeback by the time the Islanders scored the 6-4 goal. A lot of the fans,
which is honestly, time out real quick before you finish that. If you're already showing up to see a Predators home game this late in the season,
right,
with how this season's gone, you might as well stay till the end. Right. I mean, why'd you show up to begin with? But that's neither here nor there. But anyway.
Yeah, and a lot of the fans had left when the 6-4 goal happened. I didn't. I stayed in my seat the whole time.
Kudos to you, sir.
I saw it, and I saw the comeback. And the fans that were there were going crazy, though, so that was good to see. But overall, I mean, the crowd was about what you'd expect. I'm not gonna act like it was something it wasn't. The crowd was about what you'd expect this time of year. And besides the crazy moments there, it was kind of like what you expect for a team that's third to last in the NHL.
True points. So we are going our opening faceoff tonight. We're going to really break down that game. Before last night's game, my opening faceoff was going to be, I didn't really know what our opening topic would be necessarily. I was still trying to kind of wrestle with what it should be, but to see how that game wrapped up and all the inner layers, the underlying stories from that, how that game unfolded that can come out of the opening faceoffs tonight, I decided we're going to really actually just talk about what that game means to the mental psyche of this team. That's going to be our opening faceoff. Some other things we got to get into tonight to kind of springboard us from that game is we're going to get into more about Steven Stamkos, who, look, no one on this team, aside from maybe Philip Forsberg and a few role players, have really lived up to the name on their jersey. They've all underperformed. No one has played up to par. And I think if any of those players were being honest and you asked them that, they would agree with that. But you look at Stamkos, at least the dude is not quitting. At least the dude is not packing it in. You can tell the guy cares. I saw it last night. I mean, the guy's going to the penalty box. He's ripping into the official. He's clearly invested in this team and in this franchise. And you can hate on the guy all you want for not living up to it and whatever. And being like, God, that was such a dumb move. Trotz should have never signed. Well, why do we continue to be the retirement home for all these former NHL superstars?
No. That's the Titans, I tell you.
You direct all that anger towards Barry Trotz and the former.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Don't be mad at the players for accepting contracts. Directly to Barry Trotz.
And I agree. Look, Stamkos at his elevated age, but the dude's got 27 goals now. He's tied for 5th in the league in power play goals, which is really what you signed him for. So if we're going to talk about, has he been what he was advertised to be, the dude's got 14 power play goals this year. He scored 2 last night. I get it that some of his production is a little bit too little too late when the season has already been lost. But, I'm going to save some of my thoughts till that segment to give you a little sneak peek of how I feel about it. This team has been mismanaged from the top down since the season started.
Yeah.
So let's start with those two guys first before we start coming after the players. So at least last night's game, I felt like Steven Stamkos stepped up and looked like a leader for this team. I get it. It's the 5th to last game of the year. The team's out of the playoffs, so take that for what you will. A lot of fans don't really care about that. But at least me watching that game, it felt good to see Stamkos step up and take on a leadership role there and have a 4-point game, his first 4-point game in a Predator sweater.
Was it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had to go back and look that up. But yeah, he no 4-point games this year. Some multi-point games, no 4-point games. So that was cool to see. We got to talk about the guy, Fedor Svechkov. 8 goals on the year, his first career overtime goal. And he did something else that we just have not gotten nearly enough of this year, Max. And that is finishing on the scoring chance. Not only did he hit the puck on net, but he put the puck on net and he scored. How many times have we seen Predators players this year be in high danger scoring chance areas? And not only do they not make the goalie at least make a save, they miss the net entirely.
Yeah.
It happens far too often.
Yeah, pretty much every game.
So Svechkov did not do that. He buried that puck. And you just have to be so happy for the guy. He already speaks way better English than most Americans I know.
Right.
So give him that. The dude's English is on point. He speaks very slowly. He speaks very gingerly. But his English is real. And, I can only imagine how hard that has to be to learn our messed up language that doesn't make any sense, where everyone talks the way they want to talk. But the guy's got really good English. But on top of all that, just seems like a solid guy with a good head on his shoulders. And I can't wait to see what's in store for Svechkov.
Media people rave about him, just like not even on the ice, just the way he acts in his post-game interviews and stuff like that. His
post-game interview last night was media gold. The local media is fawning over him, and they should be, just like we are right now. He said not a good game for the goalies is basically what he said, but he said it in his little, his Russian accent or whatever. But just a good guy. And so that's something for Predators fans to be really excited about for sure, to see him do that. So we got to really talk about what his importance is for next year for this team's reload, rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it. He's a big part of it next year. So we really got to dive a little bit deeper into Fedor Svechkov. And then also Matthew Wood has made his NHL debut. He's getting NHL reps. That's basically what it is. Yeah. We don't have to draw any crazy conclusions one way or the other. This is more just giving the kid a chance to get his feet wet in the NHL a little bit here. That's really what is happening here. There's no reason for him not to get some NHL action. That his University of Minnesota, the NCAA team he's representing, got bounced out early in the hockey NCAA tournament. So why not give him some NHL reps? So we'll give some early impressions on Matthew Wood and also what his long-term future could possibly be for this team. much further down the road than probably where Fedor Svechkov's at. We got to get into players we don't think we'll see next year on this, at least in the starting lineup. At least they're not in the blueprint to be in the starting lineup. And of course, a lot of players have played this season that weren't in the initial blueprint, Max, to be starting. I mean, just looking at starting lineup. Yeah. I mean, I think the last time I checked, 39 different players have played for the Preds this season, including goalies. 39. Including 14 defensemen.
Yeah, I was going to say, the defensemen have been insane.
14.
God.
You start 6 per game. Just to give you the, not counting whoever might be the extra on the bench. But 14 defensemen have played at least one game for the Predators this year. So that just goes to show you how it's not going to go according to the blueprint in the preseason for many different reasons, including trades and waiving players and injuries, all of it. But we want to talk about who is playing right now or who is currently on this team that we think, hey, they're not in the future for next season. We got to get into that a little bit. And Alex Ovechkin officially passes Wayne Gretzky. If you've been living under a rock or in a cave, or you just got off a deserted island and you're just now getting back to a civilization today, Alex Ovechkin broke the Wayne Gretzky's goal record. What a goal to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just on a snapper.
Can I tell you actually a funny story about that?
Yeah.
So on Sunday, I was at my parents' house this weekend, and right when we were about to, right when the game was going on, my parents and I had to go run some errands, and also do kind of some cleaning around my apartment. We were about to leave the game because, like, okay, I'm not just going to wait around forever. It'll happen when it happens. Then I noticed the Capitals on our power play, and I'm like, wait a second here. Yeah. And then it happens right then and there. So best decision I ever made in my life was keep the TV on 2 more minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super cool. So I mean, another thing I really thought was cool about there's tons of great storylines coming from this. We can cover some of them, but one in particular is I just thought it was so cool, and I kind of thought this would happen as the record was getting closer and closer. How about the fact that Ovechkin didn't want to get the record past Gretzky on an empty net?
Oh yeah, no, admirable.
He wanted to score on a goalie. He didn't, because that goal is going to be played for decades and decades among highlight reels, and he didn't want to do it on an empty net, and I respect him for that. And then Wayne Gretzky doing the Ovechkin tour, saying, "Hey, I'm going to be at every game until he breaks my record. So just class all the way." I thought it was so cool how he dove onto the ice, arms first, and all of his teammates embraced him. He was on the road at the Islanders, and the crowd, for the most part, all just cheered enormously.
And because that too, being on the road, I haven't seen this, but like I feel like there are a lot of people who would say it's kind of too bad it wasn't in Washington. I disagree. I think the fact that it was in New York made it cool because all the home fans cheered for him. That just showed you how important everyone knew it was.
Yeah, everyone realizes
him and the game and all that.
Everyone just realizes how incredible this record is to be broken. If you go back, I'd say if you go back 5 or more years, people thought this record would never be broken. I would say over the last 3 years is when people started realizing Ovechkin's not slowing down. Age is not catching up to him when it comes to scoring goals.
Right.
He has a chance to actually do this. I remember probably 2 or 3 years ago, I started hearing chatter that he's got a really good chance if he can stay healthy and not sustain a really bad injury, which luckily he didn't. Not a bad injury. He did actually suffer an injury this year.
Yeah, he broke his leg.
And we always have to wonder if it hadn't been for the pandemic shortened seasons and the lockout season, he would have broke this record probably a long time ago. And Ovechkin's still got an outside chance to be the all-time hits leader. He's like less than 300 hits away from being the all-time hits leader. But anyway, we're going to focus the Smashville stat of the week on Preds all-time goal scorers actively playing on this team right now. So we'll include Steven Stamkos, all those guys, and where they are on the NHL all-time list. Obviously, a lot of them are way far down and won't ever even come close to sniffing even probably the top 50 of all-time goal scorers. But I'm just a stat geek, and with the Smashville Stat of the Week, I love to dive into the numbers. And I want to see, where could Philip Forsberg end up one day? Where could some of these guys end up on the all-time list? And so that'll be fun to do. It'll also give you a clear indication this franchise has never had too many elite goal scorers. But I think that we got to touch on Andrew Brunette as well, who has missed the last 2 games due to attending to family matters. There's no details on it. I'm not going to speculate on it.
I don't know if he made a trip to Utah this afternoon. I don't know.
I'm not seeing any details released.
Yeah, I'm seeing nothing.
There's nothing out there, which really worries me a lot because it tells me if it wasn't something serious, then we would know about it. But either way, it's none of our business what's going on with his personal family. So I'm not going to speculate on that stuff. But we do have to talk about the hockey side of things, unfortunately. And what is going on? Everyone has always held steadfast surrounding the team that Brunette's job is safe. He's not going anywhere. But that doesn't mean that Trotz won't pull an audible here in the offseason, judging based on how this team has responded over the last month. Getting a win like last night, whether Brunette's behind the bench or not, it still shows that the team is still battling and fighting hard. And they've lost some heartbreakers lately too. So they are starting to show a little bit of fortitude at least. But we got to at least talk about what could happen if Brunette is indeed let go this offseason, or the other side of the coin, he is brought back for next season. Trotz does give him at least the beginning of a year 3 of his tenure to really get a do-over, if you will, with the free agents, the big ticket free agents. There's still some chatter out there that people think that Trotz should figure out a way to trade either Marchessault or Stamkos. I mean,
I don't hate it. I just think it's really unlikely.
But either way, that's what we got in store for you again. So let's go ahead and get the opening face-off going here with the Predators beating the Islanders 7-6. They were trailing 6-4, going close to the 2-minute mark. The Preds had a really controversial penalty called on them. And, I mean, the team was livid over this. But then the Islanders took a penalty to offset it. Then the Predators emptied their net down 2, which I thought was a really, really aggressive and no-brainer and smart move by assistant coach Todd Richards and the coaching staff to, you're down 2. The Predators are in the position they're in the standings. You got nothing to lose at this point, right? You pull the goalie, so it turns into a 2-man advantage on the power play. And they score, and Stamkos has 2 goals on the night, 4-point night overall. So strong night for him. Money Puck had the Islanders at a 95.7% chance to win that game, even after the Predators made it 6-5. So Max, give me your takeaways, but also just kind of speak on what this really can mean for the psyche of a team like the Predators to win a game like this late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, for last night, obviously a crazy game all around. I never would have gone to a Preds Islanders game expecting there to be 13 total goals scored. But all game, I thought the team really responded well. They give up first goal, came back, third and fourth goals fall behind, come right back and tie the game from there. Again, Stamkos played a great game. And then just being resilient the whole way through. And, again, like you said, Chad, it doesn't mean much at this point in terms of standings or, what this team is going to accomplish in terms of, achievements in the standings, anything like that. But, the team had been, losing a ton, especially lately. And, again, just to need something. I don't know how much I can really speculate as far as it impacting them, next year. I mean, we still got to play out these 4 games, and hopefully they can at least give us something positive in those games. But, as far as last night, it was just good for the team to, have something just good to talk about, just something that they can be proud about when they just came together, again, they were losing so many games, especially not having their head coach on the behind the bench. We don't know what's going on with Andrew Brunette or anything like that, but just, no doubt about that that's going to affect the team, and the team kind of feel these things, and just to give them something good to talk about for 24 to 48 hours helps out a lot. I know it sounds strange, but again, it helps. And again, a lot of people, I understand it, when people can roll their eyes when it comes to these guys just playing for pride. But again, that's what matters. These guys, again, they're prideful guys. They play professional hockey. Nobody wants to be known as like an overpaid guy, a guy who's underachieving, things like that. And especially for someone like Ryan O'Reilly, who got his 300th goal last night, these guys are going to try hard to achieve the best they can. They're playing, for their jobs, and a lot of the young guys playing for their futures. And a lot of these guys who are playing to provide for their families, they don't want to lose their jobs. Yeah, they're millionaires, multimillionaires, stuff like that. But again, it's important for them to, be in a place where they can be, make their money, play the job they love, and be in a location they know that they're going to say they don't have to worry about getting traded. All these things matter. And for the team to have something like that happen last night, to where they came together and were resilient, that's just good for a team like that, especially after all the losing lately.
Well, yeah, when you go through a season like this and you're at this point in the season, you literally are just playing for pride right now. I mean, it probably doesn't have any impact really on next season and what could happen next season, but you gotta have something good happen before you go into the offseason. You don't want to go into the offseason with what's already going to be a dark cloud no matter what happens. I mean, you can't really change what's already happened for this season and how bad it's been. I mean, getting this win at least ensures that they're not going to be the worst team in franchise history. They did move ahead of the inaugural 1998-99 team, which I've been tracking that for like the last 20 games to see how close they're going to cut it. And they did move ahead of that 63 points. They're going to definitely go down as being the second worst team in franchise history in terms of points percentage, because you can't really count the lockout shortened season and stuff like that. But yeah, so you just need something good to happen. I mean, so we look at the money puck breakdown here. When Stamkos scored at 17:53 of the third period, that still only brought the Predators chances to win the game at 4.3%. So, and when I was watching this game live and I saw Stamkos score, my whole thought process was, well, hey, at least they didn't lay down. At least they kept fighting. Like I still thought they were definitely going to lose this game. And then let's talk about Michael Bunting a little bit. We really have not talked about him that extensively on this podcast since he's been signed. I mean, all we've really covered about Michael Bunting on this show is, yeah, he's probably going to be flipped next year. That's all. Right. Like, he's not part of the long-term future. But, I mean, look, the guy has I think he scored 3 or 4 goals now since he's joined the Predators. 4 goals. Yep. He is definitely very noticeable out there. And just like I said that I appreciate how I see Stamkos looking like he actually gives a crap lately, Michael Bunting, that dude's out there breathing fire. That dude looks like he's playing his Stanley Cup, Game 7 Stanley Cup, every game since he's joined the Predators. The guy doesn't look disinterested. He doesn't look lackadaisical. He looks like he is, you just mentioned, Max, proving yourself. Michael Bunting is out there trying to prove himself. He's still a relatively young player, and has been a little bit of a letdown in his NHL career, but judging off what his expectations were when he first came in the league. But look, the guy is trying to audition for somebody. Obviously, his first auditioning act is for the Predators. So that's the team he's playing for right now. But he's auditioning for his NHL future, like you just touched on, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Michael Bunting is one of those guys. I'd probably say the biggest complaint about Bunting from my perspective is he tends to take a lot of penalties, and not all of them are very smart, so that's my thing. But he also does draw penalties, and he goes to the net like crazy, and that helps out a lot just going to that. And that's how he scored that goal last night and tied it up. It was a shot by Stamkos. I think it might have even hit his helmet, but just the fact that he was parked in front of the goal was the reason that puck went in.
It was right in Michael Bunting's wheelhouse. That's what the guy does. And that kind of fits the Trotz system and what he likes to see. Like, I know he's not the head coach anymore, obviously, but that's the kind of culture he likes. So you're starting to see why Barry Trotz went out and got Michael Bunting, as much as we criticized that trade and we didn't really.
I wouldn't say I love the trade, but I can see what.
A small little sample size here of Michael Bunting doing some good things isn't going to change my opinion either. I still don't understand that trade, but we can still kind of be a little interested now and be like, all right. So, and then of course the guy who steals the show is Fedor Svechkov. He gets loose in the slot. You know, I was watching this game live. I saw this kind of developing a little bit. And I've been so hard on Brady Shea, and I'll continue to be hard on Brady Shea. The guy has not come anywhere close to living up. He's been the biggest disappointment on this team by far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But with that said, what a play by him in overtime. He, in a very small sense, rectified some of his underachievement this year by making that play to set up Svechkov right there in the slot. Svechkov finishes the chance. Stamkos gets his second assist of the game. Just a beautiful play. And you're going up against an Islanders team that wanted to win that game badly. So no one can call this game a garbage win. This game meant something to the Islanders. They were very close to being mathematically eliminated going into this game, but we've seen miracles happen. Teams can, things can happen. They wanted to win this game. This wasn't an example of a team, of an opponent not really caring about the game, and so the Predators just won the game because the other team didn't really care that much. No. The Islanders wanted this game badly. They probably thought they had this game badly.
They're probably kicking themselves right now that they didn't win this game.
Oh, those fans over there are livid to see this team do
what they did. The players are absolutely beside themselves, I'm sure.
Yeah. So that all but basically eliminates the Islanders. I think mathematically they're still alive, but
there's 4 teams in the East: the Islanders, the Red Wings, the Blue Jackets, and the Rangers, all tied at 79 points, behind Montreal, who has 87 points. So it's Montreal's spot in the final spot in the
which
West.
Is a cool story, and I'm happy for them.
It's pretty cool.
So to wrap out the opening face-off of episode 65 and just reacting to this game, for the psyche of this team, it's really just about carrying this over into the last 4 games, because, like I said, you don't have to worry about your lottery odds. They're going to be the 3rd worst team in the league. They're going to have the 11.5% chance to get the number 1 pick, and they're almost certainly going to pick in the top 5. If my math and probabilities, the way it all works.
If they finish bottom 3, I believe they are guaranteed to pick no worse than top 5. I believe that is.
Yeah, exactly. Because even if you're slotted outside the top 10 and you win the lottery, the highest you can move up is 10 spots. So that's kind of how everything gets reshuffled. And the lottery only affects the top 3 teams, the top 3 picks. So once the lottery gets done picking the top 3 teams based on just random lottery picking, then it goes in order of standings. So if the Predators, in just really unfortunate bad luck, don't land a top 3 pick based on the lottery draw, then if one of the 2 teams ahead of them have already secured a top 3 pick, and then another random team sneaks in above the Predators to get the 3rd pick or the 2nd pick or whatever it ends up being, the Predators would at least secure the 4th overall pick or the 5th overall pick. So I'm pretty sure they are guaranteed almost to have a top 5 pick, mathematically.
It would take a development of unforeseen proportions for the Preds to not be guaranteed a top 5 pick at this point.
Which makes me feel really, really good. I can have my cake and I can eat it too. So it's going to take us into our next segment here, which is, what do we want to see from this team in the last 4 games? I want to see them win. I just want to feel good. I want to see some good things happen. That's all.
I want to see some
I'm
fight.
starved. I am starved for good things to happen to this damn team. I've never seen a darker cloud over this franchise other than when they almost relocated. They were damn near as good as gone. And then a bunch of season ticket holders rallied to get the attendance numbers up to a respectable level. The ownership changed hands. Shea Weber came busting in to become the franchise player franchise great that he ended up being. Pecorine saved the franchise. The rest is history. But that was probably the darkest moment in this franchise, was when they were literally about to pack up and move to Canada. But other than that, this season has been the darkest cloud this franchise has ever been under, because all of their other really bad years that are comparable in terms of regular season performance was when the team was a new franchise. So no one was holding it against them. No one was like, oh my God, Predators, you were such a disappointment. Like, no, yeah, they were an expansion team. No one expected jack crap out of them. So It wasn't a big deal. So, yeah, this is definitely the darkest moment this team's ever been through right now. So I just want to see him get some wins. Last night was such a breath of fresh air. It's like being trapped in a bunch of smoke and smog, and you're struggling to find your breath. And we got a small little breath of fresh air last night. That's what last night was. And I just want to see a little bit of more of that. And then once the season ends, then we can really decompress, take the whole season for what it was, and start answering some questions about what has to really happen this offseason. But until the season is actually over, I just want to see these last 4 games. I just want to see some good things happen. And even if they do lose a few of these games, I want to see competitive games.
Yeah,
I want to see them punch back. I want to see them show, like you said, Max, just show some fight. Don't just fall to the wayside. Don't pack it in early. Treat it like you're playing to make it to the playoffs. Treat it like that, even if it's not happening.
Honestly, here's a way. If this locker room's invested, here's what they're probably got to think. If these are our last games together, let's make it 4 really good last games. Let's make them count. Let's go off on a high note here. Because definitely, and we'll get into in a segment here, there are some guys on this team who won't be back next year. I'm sure of it.
Oh, absolutely. But it's also, that's going to be a tough segment to really break down as well, though, because when you look at the current contracts, a lot of guys are signed to next season.
I'll say this.
It's going to be about waiving some guys or trying to do some off-season trades maybe, but I don't know. But
I'll say this, though. I'm thinking, I've already thought of some off-season content I'm thinking of for writing. I got some thoughts on one of my articles being some guys who may not be back next year.
All right. Well, give us a sneak peek on it when we get to that segment in a second. Yeah. But another thing, so the last 4 games here, you've got Utah Hockey Club twice.
Yep.
They are pretty sure they're mathematically eliminated, right, Max?
Pretty sure. Let me look. West is a little more open than the East.
Let's just make sure that they don't have a slim 0.5% chance to make it. But I'm pretty sure they're
they are mathematically hanging by a thread. They are still technically alive right now.
Wow. Okay. So what's the standings look like? I haven't looked at it. So I don't have to pull it up.
So the teams in the West eliminated, obviously, us, San Jose, Chicago, Seattle, and Anaheim are all eliminated. Utah has 84 points. If they lose tomorrow, they're mathematically done. So there's that. They're 84 points. The second wild card spot, Minnesota, they're holding it at 91 points. So Utah's 7 points behind with 4 more games left to go. So the most they can do is 92 points. So they'd have to win out, and Minnesota has to lose every game. And the teams ahead of them, Calgary and Minnesota, Calgary and Vancouver, too. So it's not going to happen. But again, Utah has plenty to play for tomorrow night, obviously.
So
although Minnesota is currently playing San Jose, they're up 7-6 in the third period. If Minnesota wins that game in any fashion, Utah's out. So Utah could be eliminated by the time we're off of this podcast.
And I got the simulcast going on right now on the ESPN Plus app, and I'm seeing that game right now where Minnesota's up 7-6 on San Jose. So they can clinch their playoff berth. But Minnesota, wow, they've been floundering a lot.
And this is with Kirill Kaprizov back in the lineup tonight.
I mean,
it is his first game back, so
they have pretty much let St. Louis steamroll past them. And if you look at the jockeying for playoff position in that wild card race right now, that second wild card team is likely, as I scroll up, going to take on Winnipeg in the first round. Although Dallas still has a puncher's chance to overtake Winnipeg.
Oh, they are close. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we got it on the screen right now for our live viewers on YouTube and Facebook. But it's mathematically possible that Dallas, I don't know who has the tiebreaker, though.
I don't either.
A lot of scenarios in play there if they end up tying.
There's a lot of I think regulation wins and regulation overtime wins somewhere along the lines. I'm sure one of those.
Well, I think if head to head is tied as well, I think the first tiebreaker is regulation wins.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first tiebreaker is regulation wins. If
that holds a lot of weight, right? Winning in regulation holds a lot of weight when it comes to.
And I guess they're
and that's too close to call. That's too close to call as well.
Yeah.
So that
overtime wins. So then
and the Preds play Dallas in the season finale at home. So if you just want to have something, I wrote an article about this on Predlines playing the spoiler role. If you just want something to play for and you want to be the wet blanket on someone's parade, I mean, obviously Dallas has bigger fish to fry. It's called winning the Stanley Cup. So whether they win the Central or not, they're going to be the top dog to take down, in my opinion, in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah. West and East, Dallas is my team to beat. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to Winnipeg. I don't mean any disrespect to the Capitals, who are going to win the President's Trophy. But Dallas is my team to beat. Yeah. My top dog. At
least contender. In the West, yeah, that's who I'm going with.
But whether they win the Central or not, but it would be kind of fun, at least, to somehow beat Dallas in the season finale if the Central Division's on the line.
I love that.
I mean, that just kind of feel good. I don't know, just to be a wet blanket on them not winning the division title. Even though I know those Dallas fans, I know a few of them, they could give two craps about the division title if a Stanley Cup's on the line. So, yeah. But either way, so that's an interesting race there. But anyway, when it comes to the wild card, as I was getting to, Minnesota, if you're a wild card team, you're taking on either Vegas, Winnipeg, or Dallas. So pick your poison, really. So Minnesota's just looking to just get in at this point. But Calgary is 4 points back of Minnesota. Vancouver's 6 points back. Who I would, other than the Predators, they are the unquestioned, undisputed, most disappointing team in the NHL this year. It's not even close, in my opinion. And that's not me being biased. It's just facts. Yeah. They are the most disappointing team in the league. It is. But if you're looking for some other teams who have also been disappointments, I would say the Vancouver Canucks and the New York Rangers would be my other two teams.
I mean, Vancouver's really been going through it all year with all the turmoil they've had. For the longest time, they were dealing with the Elias Pettersson, JT Miller stuff. Even though JT Miller got traded, it doesn't seem like they're totally through with that. It still seems like they're still kind of reeling.
Yeah. All right, so if you're Nashville, you get Vegas and Dallas in 2 games against Utah. So who knows? By the time that Dallas game comes around, there might not be much to play for Dallas, and maybe the Preds can just figure out a way to just get a win there. Vegas is a team that I think they're much more comfortable in where they sit right now to win the Pacific Division, and so they might not bring as much to that game. So the Preds do have an opportunity here in the last 4 games to at least play meaningful hockey and notch a few more wins to at least give you a little momentum and good vibes going into the offseason. So that's what we have in store. But me and Max, both in agreement here. Play for pride. Play like you care, just like you did against. And quite frankly, that Montreal loss was a tough one to take because they should have won that one. They outshot outshot the opposition. It's looking like I'm totally okay with UC Saros being shut down for the season. What do you think about that, Max?
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, you don't have a back-to-back left at this point. I'm sure you'll play at least one of the games because they're all within. I'm sure they're not going to roll Eustace on in, just 1 day rest each time, especially with the travel going from here out west and out west to back here. But
I wouldn't be against it though, just because I'm not totally sold on Eustace Onanen right now.
Yeah,
he hasn't looked very sharp lately. He hasn't.
I mean, it's hard to judge because of how terrible the defense is. I mean, let's be honest, the defense right now is barely NHL caliber. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to be sold on the goaltenders either. It's bad all around.
All right. So before we get to our next segments here in episode 265, get my numbers mixed up. 265 Catfish on Ice, presented by DraftKings. The NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge, and it's still that way this late in the season with just a few games left. It's still completely unpredictable. We just showed you that with looking at the NHL standings there. But no one knows where it's going yet. But that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers, bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. All right, so let's move along here. Let's talk a little bit more about Steven Stamkos after that game and start thinking more into 2025-26, assuming he doesn't get traded and something crazy doesn't happen. And the overwhelming probability is that he sticks around. I'm kind of liking this mentorship that Steven Stamkos can provide this transitioning Nashville Predators roster in 2025-26. If Barry Trotz wants to push off the rebuild and he wants to call it more of a reload or whatever you want to call it, well, then you're going to need Steven Stamkos to take over that mentorship role. And one thing I'll say about Stamkos is the guy's still got some really amazing wheels. The guy was buzzing last night.
He was.
For at his age, to show the speed he shows, and we all know the Predators always have a lack of speed on this team. But Stamkos is your fastest player when Roman Josi isn't on the ice. I mean, he's definitely your fastest player on the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been the guy. I honestly, even before the season when the Preds picked him up, I honestly did not realize Stamkos as that fast. But he's deceivingly fast for a 35-year-old man. I mean, he, like you said, he has some wheels, and it's honestly, depending on, it's going to be interesting to see how the lineup construction can work next year, depending on what the Preds do. If they decide to kind of go, I wouldn't say splurge, but like kind of go out and bring in some younger guys on the team. Maybe Trevor Zegras is another target they could look at. Depending on how things go, Stamkos played with some young guys. If he can play with that speed, could be a decent fit there. You never know.
And I'm already starting to think about next season and how Stamkos is going to be utilized maybe differently than how they did this season. I mean, he's going to continue to be a power play specialist. That's never going to change, especially as he gets older. But he clearly still has one of the best power play shots in the league. He's tied for fifth among a host of guys in the NHL this year with 14 power play goals. So that part, he scores 2 power play goals last night against the Islanders. That's not going to drop off a cliff anytime soon. He's going to do that same thing for the team next year. But somehow this franchise has got to figure out, this coaching staff's got to figure out a way to utilize Stamkos a little bit better. And that's just going to be about are they going to be? There's not a lot of options, and we can tie Svechkov into this right now. But there's not a lot of options at center. Me and you were texting back and forth about this privately last night, Max, after the game. The Preds don't have any foreseeable options at center next year. You've got Ryan O'Reilly, another year older. Steven Stamkos, another year older, and quite frankly, we still don't know if the franchise's plan is to have him at center. You have Colton Sissons, obviously not a top 6 center. He never will be. Never has been, never will be. Love the guy. He should never on a normal team be a top 6 center. You've got very few options to go with right now other than Fedor Svechkov. I mean, last year it was Tommy Novak. That didn't work out. He has since been traded. That's all we could talk about going into the season on this show, Max, was Tommy Novak. Can he play the 2C? Now it's Fedor Svechkov's turn in 2025-26. He is going to be the replacement of Tommy Novak in that narrative going into the offseason. Can Fedor Svechkov be the 2C? And eventually, hopefully, maybe even a 1C down the road. Way down the road.
I mean, I'll just go out and say, it's early. I don't see Fedor Svechkov ever being that true 1 center. I just don't imagine him being that kind of game changer. And going off that discussion, I know the Preds are going to have a really high pick this year, so maybe they could draft that center of the future. Maybe guys like Michael Misa and James Higgins could be one of the guys the Preds select. But apart from that, honestly, maybe that's, and again, it's going to be, and who knows, what the Preds do in the offseason. Maybe they're not going to be quite like last year, but maybe it's time to maybe take a little bit of a risk on a younger guy like that at center. Like maybe, again, Trevor Zegras is still a guy maybe they should look into trading for. I've been pounding that drum for over a year now, it seems. Or hell, I plan to talk about this in some articles I want to write, maybe articles plural potentially, and maybe I have a segment out here later this summer. But maybe consider an offer sheet for a center potentially. Maybe someone like Marco Rossi.
It's just so hard to get top 6 centers on the open market. I mean, they just don't.
This isn't the open market, though. This is.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it's hard. You talking about in free agency or
no?
Trade?
Like either trade or offer sheet. That's not free agency. Yeah. Again, offer sheet. I know they're technically restricted free agents, but again, they're not like on the open market like that. You can't.
I understand. No. It's just really going to be hard to pull something like that off. But that might be their only option.
Plus, the Preds, they have picks, and here's one of my gripes with Barry Trotz so far. And look, I've talked at length about Barry Trotz and how I don't think he's a good GM at this point. One of my biggest gripes with how he's done things is, why is he so reluctant to trade his picks? You have so many. You have 3 picks in the first round. You had a lot of picks last year. Why are you afraid to move them? Like, you got assets to play with. We have prospects on this team who I'm sure and all of them are going to get to Nashville eventually. Like,
but not a lot of centers in the prospect pool.
But again, that's why you go maybe get a little bit aggressive for a guy like Zegras. Like, I'm not a GM. I don't know the ins and outs of the market like that, but from everything I've seen, it seems like Barry Trotz just doesn't want to use from everything I heard, Barry Trotz may just not want to use his first rounders in a trade. And it's like, do it. You got assets to work with.
I've heard a lot of talk recently, or just the last couple of days, about David Edstrom, a prospect center who was part of the trade involving Yaroslav Askarov. And even his ceiling is looked at as being like a 3C.
Yeah, again, you don't have that one center. Again, maybe you draft that guy this offseason. You could, but still, but again, you want to have, again, what's the worst that happens if you get another guy on this roster? At the very worst, it's competition and guys, because again, who knows? Like Svechkov, of course, isn't that 1C. Maybe he's meant to just be a 3C. You never know.
But yeah, I'm just like looking at the prospect pool when it comes to centers, and they don't have anybody that's ready to really shoot up and have that ceiling. So, and they don't have anyone on the current roster that's getting any younger. So it's going to continue to be a gaping hole on this team for the foreseeable future, unless they do what you're mentioning, Max. They offer sheet some guy, or they go out and just make a really big time power play for somebody in this offseason, which it seems very unlikely to me. But hey, that's really your only option. And if that doesn't get settled next year, you're probably once again looking at a situation where the Predators lack center depth. It's going to be exposed. The truly elite teams are going to be miles ahead of the Predators. And I think best case scenario, if this doesn't get resolved, their best case scenario for next year, if they're not in the similar position they are in now, they might be a little bit further up the standings with Stamkos being here another year. Maybe Jonathan Marchessault has a much better second year. Maybe some of these guys don't have historically bad shooting percentages. Maybe this team doesn't have as bad of puck luck when it comes to expected goal differential, which is the worst in the league by a long shot this year. Maybe some of their luck turns around and they're kind of in that playoff bubble again next year. I think that's at the very best case scenario for this team. So if they can't fix the center position is my point. I just don't see how they fix it in 1 year. Even if they do draft in the top 5 and they get a Michael Misa or a Hagens or Anton Frondell from the Swedish prospect, who is also a center, who is almost certainly going to be available for the Predators to take if Misa and Hagens are taken. You've also got some good wingers in the top 5 of the draft class that have a lot of upside when it comes to scoring. But obviously, I think if you're picking top 5, the Predators need to try to get a center. A primary potential future top 6 center is what they need to be drafting for if it becomes available. Unless the Predators are picking 3 or higher, they're not getting Michael Misa. They're not.
Or James Hagens.
Hagens has been getting some. I mean, scouting reports are all over the place this year. So this is going to be like a really fun draft to watch because there is no consensus. There is no consensus in this year's draft class. I mean, there's not even consensus on the number 1 pick, Max.
Of course the Preds bottom out in a year where there's no consensus.
But I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that there's no consensus. I think it's more or less because there's a lot of good talent and they're all like on an even playing field. I don't think that it's so much that the top 5 of the draft class is bad players. There's some generational talent up there. The problem is I don't think there's not that one guy this year that just is miles ahead of everyone else, kind of like Connor Bedard was. This is a draft class where it's top heavy again, but there's a lot more debate going on when it comes to who's number 1, who should be number 2, who should be number 3. And not to mention, each team has different needs. Each team are they going to take the best player available on the board, or are they going to draft for need? Because you've got a really good defenseman up there as well. That his name's escaping me. But so it's just a really good, intriguing top 5 draft class right now. Yeah. But we were going to talk about that a little bit later, but we squeezed it in just now. But to get back to the argument of what this whole started off was Stamkos being the mentor, but really Fedor Svechkov. I mean, that's why it was a breath of fresh air to see what he did last night, to score that goal in that big moment. It's certainly a stepping stone. It's been a season of growth for Svechkov. He certainly has not shown any red flags to feel nervous about his progression. I think he's progressing just fine. I think he's right on schedule, if not ahead of schedule, in terms of the confidence he's playing with, and he's got a really good demeanor about him on the ice. He doesn't panic. He makes mistakes, as rookies are going to do, but he plays very calm, cool, and collected, and I think that's only going to improve. He should be a lock to be in the starting lineup next year, game 1.
Yeah.
Be an 82-game starter at this point. I think he's fully graduated from the Milwaukee Admirals now, and it's going to be a question of, I mean, right now, just saying from this way back now, do you think Svechkov's got to be your 2C next year unless they sign somebody?
I mean, most likely. I mean, I guess it really depends
unless
how it goes.
Unless they roll out Stamkos as a 2C and roll out Ryan O'Reilly as a 1C again.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Or again, unless, like you say, unless you make a trade for someone. But to your point, that's hard to have happen.
But anyway, so interesting stuff there. Svechkov is going to be a big player to watch in the offseason and in training camp. And he's kind of taken over the role that Tommy Novak was not able to take. That's kind of what's happened here. But next up in our topics tonight for episode 265 of Catfish on Ice is let's go ahead and get into players we think won't be back next year, Max. Whether that be they're going to be waived, they're going to be traded, or they're just going to be sent back down to Milwaukee to never return.
Sure.
What do you? Let's look at the starting lineup first here. And as you see, the current starting lineup for the Predators in terms of their forwards, who they're fielding right now, none of them are free agents this offseason.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I will
none
say
of their defensemen are free agents this offseason either. So everyone they've got, they're signed to 2025-26
Right.
if the team wants to keep them.
Yeah. My thought is, and kind of maybe going a little, maybe I'm jumping the gun, I don't know. My thought is one guy I think it's very likely he won't be back just because he's kind of become excess goods at this point. Jeremy Lauzon. I mean,
really?
Maybe excess goods isn't the right way to say it, but actually maybe so, because again, the left side of the defense is so crowded.
So what do you think they do with him, though? I mean, he's been on IR all year. I do think that the defense has missed him this year. They've missed it. They've missed his physicality.
I will say if prices for teams selling up players are even like 70% of what they were at the trade deadline, you might get a pretty decent return for Jeremy Lauzon.
I mean, he's $2 million a year. That's nothing.
That's nothing. He is only for one more year. But again, that's a perfect, it's a perfect boost for a team that really, if they think they want to shore up their depth before trying to make a playoff run next year, Jeremy Lauzon's a great guy to get. And yeah, I mean, again, like I say, if prices are anything like they were at the trade deadline, the Preds will get something worthy in return for him.
Jeremy Lauzon can play either side, though. That's important to realize. Yeah. And the Preds have nothing on the right side. They are. It's crazy how depleted they are on the right side.
Yeah, it's a graveyard, and that's
lightly. Me and you have been so complimentary to Nick Blankenburg. He is one of very few players on this team that has actually overperformed. There's not a lot of players on this team this year that have overperformed based on their measuring stick, their own individual measuring stick, and where you would expect the player to play. Nick Blankenburg has overperformed.
And even then, for Blankenburg, as well as he's played, and as much as especially someone like me has complimented him, you don't want him as more than a third pairing defenseman.
No.
And that's where this team's at right now.
But what's so crazy about it is, and I put this out there, and I know people don't like plus minus. It has its uses in some scenarios, and then in other scenarios it's overused. But be that as it may, Nick Blankenburg is the only regular player that is still on this team. And when I say regular, I mean a player that's played more than 5 games, 10 games. Nick Blankenburg is the only player that is positive in the plus minus this year, Max. Did you see my tweet when I put that out the other day?
Yeah, I did.
And I know, like I said, plus minus, okay, a lot of people don't like that stat, but that is still mind-blowing, Max.
No, especially for a team that's been bad.
He is a plus 5. He is a plus 5. He's played almost 60 games this year. So we're not talking about some small little sample size. That is just mind-blowing to me. I mean, I just can't even wrap my head around it. And in that regard, plus minus does mean something to me. Because
I'm kind of with you with the plus minus. I think, it's kind of one of those, it's funny to say the stat that you kind of pick and choose when it's important. But one of those times I do think it's important is when you have a bad team and you see a guy with a positive plus minus. I think that says something about Nick Blankenburg.
So we look at it right there. A lot of those players either A, aren't on this team anymore, or B, they haven't played even 10 games this year. I mean, it's crazy. So you got Blankenburg, 56 games played, a plus 5. 15 points, which I'm pretty sure is a career high for him, a new career high. And then you got Adam Wilsby, who was showing some good positive signs until his injury happened. But he'll be back in the mix next year. That roster competition for the left side of the defense is going to be fun to watch in training camp. A lot of guys battling for one or two spots. We're talking Wilsby. We're talking Del Gaizo. We're talking Justin Barron. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch. But then you look at the rest of these guys. I mean, Ozzy Weisblatt, he's going to be in training camp next year. He's going to be battling for a roster spot. He's only played 5 games this year, though. Mark Jankowski, the now elite goal scorer. No, I'm just kidding. He's not elite, but you know what I mean. He was an even. He was a 0 in 41 games, plus minus. And then, I mean, look at this. I mean, Vinny Hinostroza, not on this team anymore. Philip Tomsino, not on this team anymore. You got a couple goalies that don't count. Joachim Kimmel, it was a 0 in only 2 games played. Matthew Wood's a 0 in 2 games. My point is, none of these guys have played a lot of games. The constant is Nick Blankenburg. I don't know. I don't know why I can't get over that stat. I should probably just stop obsessing over it.
No, that's pretty good.
It's just crazy to me. But anyway, yeah, so Nick Blankenburg is going to battle for a roster spot next year. I think he's going to be with the team next year. He signed next year to a minimal deal, $775,000. He's not on a two-way deal. Oh, yeah, no, he's not on a two-way deal starting next year. He's on a two-way deal this year, it's looking like on Puckpedia. But next year, it doesn't say he's on a two-way deal. And then he's a UFA in 26-27. But you're going to have a lot of roster competition there on the defensive side of things. Andreas England, he's not back. No. I don't see him coming back. Jordan Osterley.
All those kind of bottom pairing guys, interchangeable.
They're not winning roster spots over Mark Del Gaizo, Adam Wilsby, Jeremy Lauzon, or even Justin Barron for that matter. I think Justin Barron is an interesting one. He's going to be back next year. And I think that, and sadly enough, so Trotz has already mentioned he wants to find himself a right shot to veteran defenseman in the offseason. But I've already gone through the free agency list, and I don't know who the hell he's talking about getting but anyway.
Dante Fabro.
I would love that. I would love that. I would love it. But anyway, they don't have a lot to choose from. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, especially if it does end up being a rebuilding year next year. Justin Barron might be. Who do you think is going to be? This is a good question. I was thinking about this, and I'm glad I just thought about it because I did want to talk about it with you tonight, Max.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be Roman Yossi's line mate to open 2025-26?
He might be on the right side. I imagine right now he'll probably be like a left-handed defenseman playing great. He's usually done that this year.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean,
but like, who are you pairing him with? Brady Shea, or
that didn't go well.
Exactly. I don't like that idea at all. I think
like that idea.
Unless they go sign somebody new, I think it's going to be Justin Barron.
I mean, his two best pairing man on this team were Dante Fabro and Alexander Carey. Hey, and between both guys, Barry Trotz let them both go and got Justin Barron back in return.
I know.
God, he mismanaged that so badly.
It's so sad and comical that you just have to laugh.
And he literally made this defense so much worse than it already was.
I mean, if Yossi plays the right side, could it be Adam Wilsby?
And maybe this right to challenge my own beliefs a little bit, because I think at the point of, who's the best pairing man for him at this point, it's probably Jeremy Lauzon.
I don't agree with that.
Who's better at this point, though?
I would love it to be Adam Wilsby. If you want to talk about Roman Yossi playing the right side, I would love for it to be Adam Wilsby. I don't think that's necessarily going to be great in the short. I have a lot of high beliefs and high hopes for Adam Wilsby.
Yeah, I mean,
and he might not have any other choice.
I'm thinking I guess it depends on what kind of style defenseman you got playing with Rosie. Yossi. I'm thinking more from the standpoint of like a stay-at-home guy.
Yeah.
To pinch while Yossi does his offensive thing.
Yeah, but I
I don't
think
know. But
Yossi's
Yossi can
game.
still play with like off. I guess he played with Ryan Ellis all those years, who's an offensive.
But I think
minded
Yossi's
guy
game
too,
is
so.
also evolving. I think
Yeah.
he's not going to be the same electrifying Yossi as he gets older. So I think that Yossi's going to have to adapt his game as well to be a little bit better of a stay-at-home defenseman. So I don't know. I think it could work out well to have a younger, more offensive because I think Willsby can end up being a really good two-way defenseman who can score. So and also provide physicality as well. So I'm hoping that, I mean, that's hoping against hope, but I mean, I'm not seeing a lot of options either there right now. And then you get down to the prospect pool when it comes to defensemen. Tanner Molendyke is the guy that we think is the future. But you also have Spencer Stastny in the mix. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts right now. But I mean, Ryan Ufko has a lot of promise, but he's not going to be ready for next year.
Same with Andrew Gibson, I would say. Again, I haven't kept up with these guys most. I'm guessing Andrew Gibson.
And they're right shot defensemen. They're all right shots, but I just don't know if they're going to be ready for next year. If you're going full on rebuild next year, I say you call it Tanner Molendyke or definitely next year. If you're going full on rebuild and you're packing it in, you're saying, hey, we're gonna really invest in the youth of our team and kind of not be good for a few years. You know, maybe that's all you got. But
again, I know guys like these are scarce even on the trade market. Maybe look at who you can get. One guy, for example, I thought of, maybe you can pry Brant Clark away from LA. He's kind of been not progressing over there. Maybe again, it's probably not going to happen, but I'm just saying maybe you have options.
Also, I would be kind of surprised if Vrana's back.
Yeah, he barely played. What does Vrana do really?
I don't know.
He kind of just hangs out. I mean, he scored that one goal in Anaheim, which I was actually there for, and I think he played again in LA. But once he played, like he hasn't played more than 5 games since the California road trip.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him being on the roster next year.
No, I mean,
he's probably going to get waived.
I literally think Trotz brought him in as a extra body.
And you just look at the guys who you feel like are definitely going to be on this team. Vrana is going to be the odd guy out when you look at him. I mean, Michael McCarron's going to stick around. Matthew Wood is an interesting one. He needs to start the season in Milwaukee. Next year.
He's not starting to, again, like you said, Chad, it's just NHL reps at this point.
Yeah, they're giving him
what the guy does well, figure out what he needs to improve.
And there's no harm, no foul. I think it's a great move by the organization to be giving him those reps. Why wouldn't you? You at this point?
Yeah, 100%.
It's not going to ruin his confidence. If anything, it's going to help him get a head start on his career in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And then he could definitely be called up next year at some point. But that wouldn't surprise me if he gets called up. But he definitely starts the season in Milwaukee, I would almost guarantee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
But, I mean, I think largely it's going to scare some people. But aside from maybe some unforeseen offseason free agency moves, the roster we're seeing right now, I think, is going to be mostly kept intact to start the season next year.
I'm a little more hopeful than you are that there could be some moves to make this roster younger.
I don't know, man. We'll see. I don't think there's going to be a lot of wholesale changes. There might be one. There might be one big move that shakes some things up, maybe. But I could be wrong on that. But I think it might serve this organization well to just not make too many crazy moves. See what happens. See if Marchessault and Stamkos and Shea can have a much better go of it in year 2. Let's see if the better puck luck can happen for this organization and keep building from within when it comes to your prospect pool and draft effectively again. Because I do think the Predators have drafted, at least on paper, the Predators have drafted pretty effectively the last few years, with the exception of losing some of those draft picks through trades and stuff. But if they can have another top 5, if they can get a top 3 draft pick this year, it can really, really bolster the prospect pool and get things going. So Let's see what happens. All right. So what else do we have left here, Max? We got to let's get into Andrew Brunette. here. He's missed what, the last 2 games?
Yeah. Missing since practice on Saturday, he's missed.
Family matters. Very delicate stuff.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we all wish the best for whatever is going on. And quite frankly, it's none of our business what's going on. But what has me really just, like I said, nervous is the fact that we're not getting a lot of details on this, which leads me to believe it is something very serious to the extent that we shouldn't know the details. If it's something really serious going on with his family, something very personal, something really tragic, or something really bad, the public doesn't deserve to know. We don't. Right. Those details are none of our business. So I'm nervous that that's what it could be, and I hope that's not the case. But when it comes to, if this thing trickles to where he doesn't finish out he doesn't return to the team for the rest of the season, if it could be something really that bad, it is unfortunately going to just complicate things even more when it comes to his job security, Max.
Yeah, and again, no one really knows what's going on. And you and I had some discussions yesterday. I don't think it's good to share here, because it's just pure speculation. But I mean, yeah, it's just, you don't know what's going on with Brunette, but all you can do is just, like you said, wish the guy the best. And, maybe people who are speculating, whatever they are right. Doesn't make it right to do that, because again, it's very serious situation with family matters. Like, what happens if he actually is legitimately doing something with family, and you're out where people out here saying, oh, it have like these conspiracies about it. Stop that. Like, let's just
no conspiracy.
Let's just wish the guy the best and hope he can return to the bench. I mean, ideally, we hope he can return to the bench at least one more time this season. But if he doesn't do that, just hope whatever it is he can get right. And I hope it's not. I hope it's not related. I mean,
regardless to what happens with his job security, I think it'd be a really cool story, especially if he is dealing with something really traumatic with his family right now. I think it'd be really cool if he could return to the team and his players can rally around him and win for him. If he is going through something really traumatic with his family right now, that'd be that'd be a really cool thing, because sports brings us all together, and nothing can kind of like be more precious than when a team rallies around their coach, or vice versa when something really bad's happening in your personal life. And so when it comes to that, I really don't think at all about his job security. I just think about the human. I think about the guy, and I hope everything's okay. But that's all I really want to touch on, Max. We can talk about his job security further down the road.
Yeah,
I don't think it's appropriate to talk about it right now.
I had an article I was going to write about Andrew Brunette, but I decided to at the very least table that until we figure out what's going on. Again, I just think,
and look, the writing's already on the wall, right? I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum this season. It's pretty much out there how we feel about it. Me and Max do have differing opinions on whether he deserves a year 3 or not.
I would say my opinion, at least at this point, is very unpopular with where most of the fan base is at this point on Brunette.
And I'm very 50-50 on it, just based on job performance, I feel like if he was let go due to how this team has performed, I think it would be totally understandable. But if they did keep him for year 3 and they gave me a complex structure of reasons why they're keeping him, including underlying stats, or maybe they do player interviews and the players want him back, that means something too.
Yeah.
If you go and you talk to the core of this roster, especially the veterans, but also the young players, and you do in-house interviews with these players, if you're ownership or you're Barry Trotz, and they're like, we want Bruno back, he's our guy, that should have something very much to do with your decision making.
Absolutely.
So we'll just keep an eye on it, But obviously, first and foremost, we wish Andrew Brunette the very best in whatever is going on in his personal life. And that's all we can really say about that. I think that covers everything except for Save the best for last. That's, of course, Alexander Ovechkin breaking the all-time goals record, 896 goals. I think I heard that if he hits 900 goals, Wayne Gretzky's going to buy him a car before the season ends. So, just raising the stakes a little bit, I guess. But it was, like I said, we touched on it at the beginning of the season, how cool that atmosphere was against the Islanders. But I did want to tie it into our Smashville stat of the week, which is Pred's all-time active goal scorers that are currently on this roster. And as you would probably already know, Steven Stamkos leads that list by a long mile in terms of active current Preds goal scorers. Not goal scorers that have scored goals for the franchise, but just overall NHL goals. Steven Stamkos is by far the leader among the Preds franchise. The Predators right now on their current roster only have 5 players max that have scored 100-plus goals. 5 players.
Crazy.
And you want to go ahead and do a little trivia? Who are those 5 players? I think you already know 2 of them easily.
Stamkos.
3 of them.
Sorry, what was the criteria again? How many goals?
Active current players on the Predators who have scored 100-plus goals.
Forsberg, Stamkos, O'Reilly.
No, 5. There's 5 on the current team.
Forsberg, Stamkos, Marceau, O'Reilly, and then why can't I think of the next one? Yossi?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you're usually on top of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just had to think about it. But yeah, so those are your 5. After that, it drops down to Colton Sissons with 95 career NHL goals.
Crazy.
And then after that, it drops down to, I want to say, who was it? Who was it after that? Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting's getting close to 100 career goals as well. So, big drop-off when it comes to all-time Preds goal scorers. But I want to let's first look at Steven Stamkos and where he could end up on the all-time NHL goals list, because I do find that to be quite interesting. He's never going to come anywhere close to the all-time record, but he is 22nd all-time in goals in the NHL history. Steven Stamkos is. And he's getting really close to the 600 goal milestone. He's not going to do that this year, but eventually Stamkos next season will hit 600 career goals max. So that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
So right now, let's look at it one more time here. Steven Stamkos, 582 career goals for Steven Stamkos. Puts him 22nd all time. He's not going to pass anyone this season, but next season he's got a chance to pass at least 3 or 4 more players on the all-time list, including Bobby Hull at 610 goals. That'd be a big one. Stamkos is also 3rd among active NHL players in goal scoring, with, of course, Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin being the only 2 active players who have more goals than Stamkos. So I've actually done the math on this. I did it in a Predlines article, and I'm actually going to pull up my article so I can make sure I get this math right. So I did the math on where I think Stamkos could finish eventually on the all-time scoring list. And if Stamkos were to play out his full contract with the Predators, so that means 3 more seasons, and he averages, conservatively speaking, 20 goals in each of those next 3 seasons, which I think he could average more than that, actually. But let's just say 20 goals. That gives him 640 career goals and would tie him for 15th on the all-time list. So I think that is a fair prediction to put Stamkos when his career wraps up, is 640 goals.
Yeah, I would say so.
Top 15 all-time, not too shabby for Stammer.
Right.
And then, of course, let's get down to Philip Forsberg, who is he's outside the top 200, I think, right now. Let's find Philip Forsberg real quick. I'm using Quant Hockey right now for my list, which is a really cool website. You can search all kinds of crazy all-time list. really geek out on some of these numbers. But when it comes to Philip Forsberg, he is 213th all time in NHL goals with 317. So Forsberg, did the math on him as well. Forsberg, with 317 career goals, has a real. He's gonna get into the top 200 next season. I think he's got a really good chance to get into the top 200. But with 5 remaining seasons left under contract with Nashville for Philip Forsberg, just like I did with Stamkos, let's conservatively say that Forsberg averages 30 goals per season. That would put Forsberg into the top 100 eventually, which I think is still pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's where my prediction is for Philip Forsberg, is that he eventually wraps up his Predators career, not only being the all-time goal leader and having like he already is, but he's going to pad that lead. That might be a record, Max, that never gets broken, by the way.
Could be.
On the franchise list for the Predators. He's just going to keep padding that lead. But I think Forsberg's ceiling is probably to eventually reach the 500 goal milestone. I think that would be the ceiling for Forsberg. If he can break into the 500 goal milestone, that'd be really cool.
Absolutely.
So that's where I got Ryan O'Reilly just scored his 300th career goal. So that's pretty cool. Puts him just behind Philip Forsberg, actually, on the all-time list. But, of course, O'Reilly was never quite the elite goal scorer that Forsberg is. Right. He does a lot of other things. But I think that eventually O'Reilly could maybe one day, if he averages 20-plus goals in the next 2 seasons, he could get into top 200 status. And with everything else he's already achieved in his NHL career, that'd just be kind of cool to see him finish. And then, of course, Roman Josi. Defensemen don't score as many goals as the other guys. But when it comes to just ranking the defensemen on the NHL's all-time goal list, Roman Josi is 27th all-time among NHL defensemen with 190 goals. So he's getting close. He should, if he stays healthy next year, for the entirety of the season, Josi should be able to hit 200 goals next year, which as a defenseman is pretty incredible. And let's just say if Josi can average 10 goals per season over the next 3, which would put him at age 37, then that would be 30 more goals in 220 for his career. That would put him top 20 all-time among NHL defensemen.
Pretty good stuff, I would say.
So, top 20, top 15 status all time among defensemen in goal scoring. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, after that, you got Jonathan Marchessault. He's got 249 career goals. That puts him outside the top 300 right now. He's also 34. So he's going to have a hard time, but he's probably going to at least pass a bunch of retired players coming up in the next season or two. So he'll at least move up that list pretty far. And then after that, the Predators really, guys, they don't have any proven goal scorers yet that will even come close to top 300 status. The jury is still out on Luke Evangelista and what he can do. So, yeah, I mean, once this current veteran group of guys move out of the picture in the next 3 or 4 years, the Predators really got to start developing this talent. I think that's where I'm getting at here. Yeah. A new era of Predators hockey is it might not quite be here just yet, because I do think Trotz is going to cling on to these veterans for a few more years, at least 3 or 4 more years. But it's coming. And that's why I do think that getting this top 5 draft pick this year, as bad as this season has been, at least we have a chance to draft someone truly historical. They can one day possibly rival Philip Forsberg or some of these other guys. You at least feel me with that, right, Max?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And one thing I was kind of looking at the other day too that kind of speaks to what you're saying is I was kind of looking at, because obviously the Preds have a lot of guys in the locker room right now. I mean, not a lot, but a decent few guys who are like captain material, leadership, all that. My thought was, who eventually takes over when the current guard is gone? And right now, I can't find a ton of guys.
We don't have anybody.
Yeah, but whenever Shea Weber left and Mike Fisher retired, there were like lots of guys in line. You thought like Yossi was there, Ryan Ellis was there. It was basically between them two, but you had some guys in mind. You don't have any right now, so that's
well. I mean, if we want to go 3 or 4 years down the road, we have no idea.
True.
What's who? Because Ryan O'Reilly will be gone by then. Forsberg is going to be getting towards the end of his career by that time. He'll still be here, most likely. But, I mean, Roman Josi is going to be getting close to the end of his career and retirement. I mean, Stamkos will be out of the picture by that point. So, yeah, I mean, a new guard of Predators, young players have to start stepping up here in the next couple of years. That's really what it's going to be about. I mean, sure, the Predators can go sign a big-ticket free agent that could take over the franchise in the coming years. That could still happen as well. But I really think that the development of the current prospects this Predators team has never been more important for this franchise.
Yeah, it needs.
They're going to have to really, really hit home runs on some of these current prospects they have that they've drafted recently, like Matthew Wood, Tanner Mollendijk, Joakim Kimmel. These guys are going to have to really be close to being home run picks, and they're going to really have to start showing it in the next couple of years. So that's really where my focus is at now. I'm not really thinking Stanley Cup and even playoffs anymore for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm going to be thinking about how do we build these prospects up and bring in the new era of Predators hockey.
Yeah, pretty much.
So with that, that's how we're going to close out episode 265 of Catfish and Ice. We appreciate all of you watching live on Facebook and YouTube. Hit subscribe and follow below. And Max, hope you have a good rest of the week, man.
You too. See you guys later.
See you later, everybody.